Hey, y'all came back. So last week, people, excluding myself for narrative reasons that we just can't go into, celebrated, marked, observed Valentine's Day. Okay, so this week I was going to officially start going through African web series, and it picked This Is It, starring the super hot Nick Matuma, written and directed by Nigeria's Lola D. That was until Lola D and Sarah Hassan released the movie, Plan B, just in time for Valentine's Day. I guess one Lola D production is as good as the other, so that's what we'll talk about today. That and the fact that I'm so flippin' jealous of people with the foresight to start working on the movie months in advance, timing it just right for release. Anyway, so next week we'll start on This Is It, allowing me to finally gush about the delicious Nick Matuma. That being said, let's get into it. Plan B follows Lisa, the lead female character, played by Kenya's gloriously pregnant Sarah Hassan, as she figures out her life after getting pregnant after a one-night stand with a Nigerian deli coker, played by Daniel Etim. Plan B is basically every Mills and Bun ever written, and I know my Mills and Bun. Personal story time. So I've read at least 1,000 Mills and Bun novels. When we were in high school, my friends and I, who will remain unnamed for reasons of statute of limitations, would take, and by that I mean steal, Mills and Bun novels from those who had them, split them into 3, and then read them in some kind of assembly line fashion. So the fastest person, or the one who actually stole the book, would start. I mean, it's only fair. Then split it and give the next person the first part as she went on to the second part, and so on and so forth. So I know my Mills and Bun, and I hope those credentials suffice. Well, that along with this leftover pile of shame that I still have. Here's the anatomy of a Mills and Bun for y'all who didn't have the pleasure. Hot guy, rich as arrogant, preferably from another country, even more preferably Italian, Spanish, or get this, Europe. Like that used to be a thing. Also, every woman in the known world wants him, but of course he chooses her. Moral of the story, we could all be that girl. And I don't know how, but it's possible, and you just have to think positive. For the girl, she doesn't have to be hot, but he thinks her average features couldn't be more attractive. She's born, obviously, but not living in the streets poor. Nobody wants to see or read that. So she's just a working poor, and she's the sweetest, nicest thing you ever saw. Also usually a virgin. She gets pregnant, can't support the baby, so he swoops in and saves the day by taking care of his baby and eventually her. So how does Plan B compare? Attractive, rich, arrogant, foreign guy. Nice, poor, hot girl. She gets pregnant, he demands a test, then proceeds to take care of her, and they fall in love, thereby instantly lifting her from abject poverty. Marriage to a rich guy, scientifically proven way of jumping at least 10 tax brackets and adding just as many digits to your account balance. Try it today. 100% money back guarantee. Terms and conditions apply. In the opening scene, Lisa's douchebag of a boyfriend breaks up with her because she is too nice.
You're great friend material, but romantically, you're too nice. You're always available. You're so soft. I got bored.
One of the key taglines of Utter Lunacy podcast and the project as a whole is remember who you are. One would assume that's an easy thing that should go without saying, and one would be wrong. Society will try to tell you who you are based on nothing but dogma, traditions, and pseudoscientific or philosophical or religious beliefs. You have to decide who you are. And once you have, you need to remember that. The world is full of ideas about what kind of people human beings are, then what kind of people men and women are, and then it's people of different races and different tribes. The problem is the world is wrong a lot. What people believed about women 100 years ago is today borderline laughable, but mostly heartbreaking, and even worse, still informs our current beliefs. And the same applies to race and sexuality and religion. The world is full of ideas about what qualities are acceptable and appealing and which ones aren't. So a good wife is one who obeys your every command, cooks and cleans after you, does not disagree with you, and of course bears you children, all without a single complaint. It goes without saying. A good husband is one who provides, period. I'm not suggesting you ignore the societal norms. My refrain remains the same. Interrogate all these beliefs and see if they make sense. Subject every one of them to rigorous thought and critique and see if they can justify themselves. So, this girl is dumped because she's too nice. There's an impulse to want to change when someone criticizes you. An impulse that has its benefits, but one that should always be checked critically before any changes are made. In the words of Cornel West, we all got some work to do in terms of character building. And all critiques to our character need to be evaluated to determine if those proposed changes will make us better people or not. So, the easiest way to get someone to change a certain quality about them, particularly for women, if magazines and the Bible are anything to go by, is to tell them that no man's going to want them with that quality or behavior. For women, marriage has been elevated as the be-all and end-all. The worst possible thing that can happen to a woman is for her to not be desirable as a marriage partner. Simply put, you're not wife material, which, incidentally is one of the best things anyone could say about me. If you want to compliment me, tell me that in comments. Thank you. Remember who you are. Don't let the world or its people change you. Now, our girl Lisa, she toughens up after that criticism and does the whole stepping up to daily thing and forcing him to pay her child support. It was a necessary thing, one could argue. But you know why this worries me? It fits into this narrative about how we should change based on the way the world is. You know what's amazing? Retaining your softness and the qualities about you that make you human, even in the brutality of the world all around you. It's about keeping yourself open to love, even when it hurts, instead of closing yourself off and being tough. No, okay, enough on that. Now is when the story gets truly into it. Wait, did I ramble on for so long you forgot we were talking about the Plan B movie? Welcome to my world. All ramblings all the time. Anyway, so our girl is heartbroken after being dumped for being too nice and soft, which you would assume are good qualities to have, but alas, they make for a boring drama-free relationship, which is also apparently a bad thing. Look, it's a lot.
Another round of tequila. Get another one.
Hi.
Hi. Can you believe my boyfriend broke up with me and is moving to France in 2 days? 2 days. Oh, and he said that I'm too nice.
Well, two things. One, I like nice girls. And two, I think we're in the wrong place.
I like it. I really like it.
So she goes to a club and starts flinging down, or slinging down, shots of tequila. Anyway, some guy, kinda hot, nowhere near Nick Matuma hot, obviously, sees her taking down those shots like it's some kind of contest. He does the equivalent of sliding into a DM, but like, in a bar. She very drunkenly tells him, the first thing she tells him is how she got dumped. They flirt, then she wakes up alone in some hotel room with zero memory of how she got there and with whom. As soon as that happened, I knew I wouldn't like him, and I didn't want her to end up with him at all. From that point on, I was just done with him. He saw that she was drunk, and getting drunk fast. Slides into her DM. I mean, you can tell. I haven't really had the opportunity to say slide into her DM. Anyway, slides into her DM. She drunkenly tells him that she got dumped, and he proceeds to hook up with her. Going by the story, he was in full control of his senses, and she was vulnerable, not to mention sloshed. And he hooks up with her without protection? This here is a creep, a douchebag, and a waiting to happen, if not already happening, sexual predator with a death wish to boot. He looked at her, and this is what pissed me off. He saw an easy lay. He basically just saw a wet available hole. That's it. In that moment, he negated her humanity, and she was nothing beyond a warm body for his pleasure, something the Chinese can make. He took advantage of her. Now, the movie tries to justify it. He says to her,
It wasn't rape, right? It was two consenting, tipsy adults.
Right.
Right.
No. First, if you need to clarify that something wasn't rape, you're already doing something wrong. Second, she was drunk. She was heartbroken. He sleeps with her and doesn't even stay and wake up with her or wake her up just to make sure she's okay. Now, if you had any consciousness of her humanity, if you gave no about the fact that she was a person in a bad place emotionally, was currently unable to give consent, someone who might regret this, much less not remember it at all tomorrow. He'd have just taken her home and likely hooked up with her the next day after she was floored by his gentlemanly gesture. Then they could have gotten pregnant. And I wouldn't hate his guts so much. I mean, I thought I couldn't possibly hate his guts more until she woke up in that hotel room alone and confirmed my suspicion that she was nothing more than an available white hole. I know casual sex is a thing, but come on, it's sex with a person. You have to consider that they are a person with feelings and not just a stand-in for a Chinese sex doll that you can just use and discard at will. Ugh. There's my rant on that. So our girl finds out she's pregnant. First, if you ever for some reason engage in reckless, life-risking, life-endangering sex, get tested immediately. You'll probably have to go back after a few weeks for a second HIV test. And, whatever else, other sexually transmitted tests. I think they put you on something for people who may be exposed to the virus. Now, if I don't sound sure about what to do after engaging in reckless, unprotected, suicide attempt-esque types of sex, it's because I don't do that. Lots of Tupac. If you have the female persuasion, take the emergency contraceptive. She didn't do any of that. She got on contraceptives, but not the emergency contraceptive, which is supposed to block all of that fertilization, conception, and eventual fundraising to take your kid to campus stuff. So, yeah, I didn't think I could dislike this other guy any more than I already did. But our Nigerian millionaire is nothing if not an overachiever. And we'll talk about this whole obsession with millionaires, billionaires, and other greedy types in upcoming episodes. Okay, so Lisa goes to Delhi's office, and it turns out the women are always walking up in there claiming he got them pregnant. In 2 years, there's been at least 6 claims, allegedly false. 7 if you count Lisa.
But sir, she says she's 5 months pregnant with your child.
Sarah, how long have you worked here?
2 years?
Good. Now, in 2 years, how many of these women have come here with the same claim?
Like about 6, maybe.
And what do they want?
Well, money. But she's not like that.
Okay.
The receptionist says, Lisa doesn't look like the rest, and Della says, nope, they all want the same thing, money. So I took issue. I take issue all the time, otherwise I wouldn't even have this podcast. So I took issue, as I'm wont to do, with the implication that the rest of the women were the loose kind, the fast kind, so they couldn't be trusted if they claimed to be pregnant. After all, sperms know not to mix it up with the eggs of fun. Sperms are smart like that. That's why you never see pregnant. That's the thing they didn't teach you in school. You're welcome. Thank me in comments. Also, consider the fact that he'd initially dismissed Lisa as one of the floozies out to suck him dry, and not in a good way. And the only difference is she put up a fight and didn't accept his insulting $5,000 offer with a patronizing speech about investing wisely. The more I talk about this guy, the more I hate his guts. How many of these women were Lisa-esque, too poor and too unknowledgeable, if that's a word, to put up a fight with a rich, ill-mannered, philandering Nigerian ogre? And no, let's not talk about how those women were different from Lisa, i.e. fast and loose, while she apparently is nice and keeps it in her pants, except this one time some creep took advantage of her in a drunken state. For all we know, this dude has at least 6 kids out there. Let that sink in. Also, if we're gonna talk about, this Della guy is a and if Lisa's anything to go by, one who occasionally fails to use protection or uses protection that occasionally fails, then he's out here acting like a victim, and all these women are out to get him. Poor little rich guy.
I'm used to this. The struggles of a young, successful entrepreneur. Listen, have you for once just looked at this from my perspective? I'm constantly trying to be conned by this.
It's simple, bruh. Stop casually hooking up with women if you're afraid they'll come crying pregnant afterwards. Stop with all this casual sex, put a pause in it until you can figure out why you keep making these terrible choices on women to bang. Either that or get them tubes double snipped. Simple. You can't be out here judging women for banging you and crying pregnant when you're the LCM in all these encounters. It's not them, bruh. It's you. 7 might be pregnant women in 2 years is 7 too many. I mean, if you've been a sexually active rich adult for the last 10 years, we're looking at least double digits potentially pregnant women. But you must stop and evaluate your life. Hot tip, you're reaching out to afford therapy. Better check yourself before you wreck yourself. I did always want to say that. Now that I'm ranting about him, let's just get it all out. So this guy and Lisa hit a bump in what can only be very, very, very loosely termed as a relationship.
All I wanted was for my baby to know that she had a father. And maybe I didn't go about things the right way, but I needed you to take me seriously, and I don't regret that. I didn't leak the story, and I'm sorry if this whole mess has put your name and zinc on the line. You don't have to worry about my upkeep. I was fine before I met you. I'll be fine. Baby. Oh, I didn't know you had company. I'm really sorry for disturbing you.
Lisa!
Do you know what he does after the fight? He finds another vagina to stick his penis into. Regardless of what movies suggest regarding getting under someone to get over someone, I would advise you to be incredibly cautious of people who make it a point to use other people's bodies for their own purely selfish needs.
So, how is she?
She's nobody. I promise you.
Not that it matters. What do you want?
He tells Lisa that girl was nobody. No, she wasn't. She was a person. And you used and discarded her when you were done. And even worse, you completely dehumanized her at the end of it all, calling her nobody. Okay, so I know, one could argue he meant she was nobody special to him, not just nobody in a general sense. But still, how do you use somebody's body, their only body, their singular home to satisfy yourself, and then suggest that they meant nothing to you? If at the end of an interaction with someone, you might say they're nobody and it meant nothing, consider not mixing it up with that person. Consider not merging your body with theirs in any fashion. Regardless of who they are, everyone deserves better than that. Now, other people's bodies are not just our toys to play with and derive pleasure when we desire to do so. They're people, damn it. They're magic. They're special. And they deserve more than you treating them like a Chinese sex toy. So how about this? New rule. Don't have sex with anyone you don't at the very least like and respect. Just don't do it. People matter. People are special. People are magic. They're not sex toys for you to get yourself off. She says not that it matters about the other woman being nobody. Not to belabor the point, but yes, it matters. The fact that he just casually used that woman matters. It tells you how he feels about women, what he thinks about women. And just in case you forgot, you're a woman. For him, women are great purely after his money. And also what holds for him to derive pleasure if and when he pleases, with no obligation to think of them as complete, complex human beings before, during, or after the penetration and or orgasm. His orgasm, just so we're clear. This guy really... So yeah, we'll have a tiny break for me to compose myself. And when I return, we'll talk about our obsession with money, which will effectively uncompose me or decompose me. Dela Coca is the richest Nigerian ogre whose business deals are negotiated in millions of dollars, which is supposed to impress us. He also pays $400 a night at the hotel where he takes advantage of poor drunk Lisa. His secretary says just because he's rich he thinks he can break in a woman's heart. She despises him. And she just might be the only person, aside from you, Australia, of course, who truly sees him for the asshole he really is. Everything with him is about money. He finds out that she had a career change from engineering to fashion, and this detail must have been put in to show us that she's not just a blondie obsessed with clothes and appearances. Anywho, when he finds out about her fashion thing, he immediately starts talking about the fact that fashion has consistently proven to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. Back up the track. Fashion is one of the leading causes of climate change and one of the key purveyors of slave-like working conditions and child labor. Watch the True Cost documentary by Andrew Morgan. Also, the hubris in automatically deciding that the only reason someone could have gotten into a certain career path is because of its potential billions in profits. Listen, people have motivations beyond the pedestrian and primitive, making of money above all and at all costs. Now, let's talk about the poor people, right? First of all, let's just agree, these people don't look poor. Their house doesn't look like a poor person's house, neither do their clothes, nor do their respective hairdos. Their house is way, way, way better than any house I've lived in, and that's pure fact. Also,
Are you expecting someone?
I ordered some comfort pizza. To ease the tension.
their poverty is very superficial and I think inconsistent. But I'm willing to concede I may be reading it wrong. Maybe they just, maybe they're just working poor. Like, they used to not be poor when they bought all that stuff, then life happened, and now they're poor, and their mindset is still high-flying, world-class fashion school. Anyway, they just don't look it, so, maybe it's a mise-en-scène issue. And yeah, that's a film school term, mise-en-scène. How else will you know, y'all, that I went to film school? Anyway, so it's a mise-en-scène issue. Or they're just, really stylish poor people who know where to shop for bargains on everything from furniture to, hair products. But, not food. So Lisa tells Kate that she threw back Delia's, check in his face when he gave it to her. To which Kate replies,
No, make me understand. You took a free $5,000 check and threw it to his face.
My pride got in the way.
Pride? You're a broke single about to be mother. You have no pride. And people like us, Lisa, were created to be humble.
Fine. I blew it. Can we just go back to our normal lives?
You're going back. Humble as a pauper and get that check.
Not happening, Joyce.
Listen to me.
and people like us were created to be humble. No. People like you have been forced by an exploitative, capitalist and neoliberal system to live lives free from dignity that demand you prostrate yourself at the feet of the wealthy for whatever crimes they're willing to cast your way. No. So basically, Kate invokes God, suggesting he created poor people to live a life chock full of petty humiliations for nothing but shits and giggles. Now this is problematic. Now this is a problematic belief if you're a Christian or other religions that believe God is good, because it really puts into question God's equal love for all and his own mercy and justice thing. But aside from that, and I think this is even more pernicious, it frames the inequality and poverty problem as being a God-ordained thing and not a systemic, man-made thing. And this results in a complete inability to respond in ways aimed at fixing the problem. After all, God willed it so. This is much worse. In order to fix any problem, we have to accurately deduce its cause and then target that. If we can't even accurately identify the cause, we have no hope of fixing the problem. Also, can we address the cause of poverty according to our protagonist turned villain, Dele Coca?
That's $5,000. Now, if you're wise, you'll invest that in a business. Multiply it, so you don't have to go around scamming men. When you walk out of that door, the secretary will give you an agreement to sign. I don't want to see you anywhere around the premises, okay? And you agree to settlement of this ridiculous claim.
So, if in this movie we proceed to do what we do in real life, which is assume that people who have money know what they're talking about and are always right, then poverty is caused by a failure to invest correctly. It's some kind of character flaw. The implication of Dele's statement is that these women must somehow be careless when it comes to their handling of money, and that wise investing should take care of it all. First of all, a lack of understanding of how to invest is not the leading cause of poverty. This girl, Kate, manages a cafe, and she's poor. She fits the bill when it comes to the working poor. One of the leading causes of poverty and inequality is the fact that wages do not reflect profit. So you hear things about people working at Java-like places who survive on tips because their basic salary is so measly as to be non-existent. This is why people are poor. Because they don't have money. Because when they do work, they're not paid a living wage that is consistent with the profits they take part in generating. In a society in which jobs are fewer and fewer because of automation and whatnot, what we need is universal basic income and free social services. Because it's simple. If you have to work in order to eat and live a decent life, you're not free. You're compelled to work. Ergo, you're a slave. A corporate wage slave, but a slave all the same. Then you have Delhi, who apparently runs $1 million business, and we're supposed to be impressed. Yeah. Do you know how he got started? His father was Nigeria's ambassador to Kenya, and we all know politically exposed persons re-rolling in corrupt government dough. Now stop for a moment and combine Kenya and Nigeria's corruption and imagine the kind of money Dele's father must have been working with. Nigeria, the most corrupt country in the world, and Kenya, a fast rising star in the corruption sphere. This person who came from absurd wealth, this person who used to work in a bank, woke up one day and just quit, no plan or nothing, then started up his $1 million tech firm with his brother. This person for whom poverty is just another word wants to come and lecture someone who's raised by their single, not rich, grandmother about how to get out of poverty. But you wouldn't know poverty if it walked up to you, gave you a lap dance, and introduced itself. Sit down. Now, Dele's response when you take the condescending bit about investing is actually the best response, according to economists. Poverty is a shortage of money, and the solution is simple. Give people money. Easy peasy. Even a spineless, predatory weasel like Dele Coca. Can see that. And that's what we call a silver lining, guys. Finally, something about this Dele that doesn't activate my gag reflex. Just goes to tell you, if you keep looking, everybody's got some redeeming quality. Okay, so I really hit on Dele hard. Okay, so I'll say this about Lisa. She insists that she pulled the Plan B thing on Dele in order that her child may know her father. No. Y'all wanted money to raise the kid, and that's fine. The only problem is, y'all pulled the numbers, $10,000 and $5,000 upkeep out of your asses. Now that makes y'all look like gold diggers. Also, why would you want to be paid damages? So you had your feelings by denying the pregnancy. Big deal. You want money for the kid? Do the math on what it will cost and get that. Don't be greedy. Send not for money from daily types who act like the savior of your life. Also, Han, you wasn't impregnated. Ever out of the morning after? I be shit like there's no tomorrow. You let yourself get pregnant. That one's on you. That one's on you. So yeah, I have bitched a whole lot. I may have even exhausted my quota of the day. Ha! Who are we kidding? I've done no such thing. Let's talk about what I did like. So Sarah Hassan, aka Lisa, is way too hot as a pregnant woman. She looks amazing. Why are you not so familiar with my karma and my bank balance? I might have considered getting knocked up if I was sure I'd look that good. But I know my karma, my height, and my bank balance. So that's not happening. I like the picture. In terms of like the picture quality, how everything looked. It looked real good. Then there's this guy.
Some people lie, some people hurt.
Delicious. An absolute treat for my eyes and ears. I love that she's kicking. See?
Oh my god.
Are you okay?
She's kicking. She's kicking.
No way.
Just give her a second. She always does this.
She's kicking. I can feel it.
I love the scene when Dele goes to Lisa to confront her. It was such a pleasant emotional surprise.
So I'm going to ask you this just once.
Dele, I swear.
You threatened me with a sex tape.
Hi, Dele.
So it's true. She's not a real lawyer.
I'm sorry, I can explain. It's all my fault.
Is the baby even mine?
Don't do that. We had a test.
In a hospital you chose. Was the doctor real?
And I liked the closing sequence. I really did. When they make out at her grandma's house. Yo, that's hot. That's really hot. So, yeah, you would think we'll land on that bright note. You would be wrong. I'd like to the issue of happiness.
But recently, I realized how much I have been cheating myself. I realized that I deserve happiness and a life that I should be excited about. Happiness is letting go of what I think life is supposed to look like.
I'm like, just know. Life is about so much more than being happy. And no, we should never let go of what we think life should look like. That's the only way we've achieved any of the victories we have so far. Slaves didn't tell themselves their happiness consisted in letting go of what they wanted life to be. Neither did the people who fought for independence. The suffragettes did not, and neither did homosexuals. The working class has been in this fight forever, refusing to accept things as they are. This view of happiness is just counter-revolutionary. Life is about so much more than selfish individual right-now happiness. There's more to life than being happy. Like taking part in the struggle for a better life for people. Now, taking part in the struggle brings with it a sense of fulfillment because you're working towards something for the betterment of everybody and generations to come. But I don't think anybody would say it makes them giddy with delight and happiness. I don't know. It just at least doesn't look like that for me, Issy and Chris Hedges. Which, doesn't negate its value. It's just representative of how dire the situation is, how very hopeless and frightening, and still we fight because you can only afford to have hope when you fight. Also, there's something very impotent, very weak about the pursuit of happiness. Happiness should be a byproduct of the other pursuits in your life. At least I think so for now. So that's our episode. Here's hoping something sticks with y'all. Thank you for coming by. As usual, remember who you are. Love life.